listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, today our guest is the Seattle punk band Kids on Fire. They are absolutely amazing. This was an awesome talk. I had all of them on too, and like usually when I have a full band on, I get like super nervous, and we ends up being more like Q&A. But this was a great conversation. This band is absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait for you all to listen to this episode. Stay tuned to the end of this episode to hear a song off of Kids on Fire's latest album, The Best of the Worst of Times. This is episode 247 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Kids on Fire.
Here lies my self-esteem, standing in the ground by my apathy. Never said I learned my lesson, no regrets, no confessions. Truth be told, I never was one to care. I couldn't tell you why everyone was there.
Time I'm just like, hey, I like this musician. I want to talk to them. And for some reason, they always say yes. You know, well, a couple have said no. A couple have given me the business, you know, like,
Oh, really?
yeah, like, you know, you get big timed every once in a while, I guess, you know?
Right.
You'll have to direct that through our PR agent. It's going to cost $100 an hour to talk to our PR agent first. But
Wait, we had a PR agent this whole time? But I like to...
who do you think you've been
personally-
talking with, Sam?
True. So I'd like to personally say, thank you for doing this and having me as too. Like, me being the most recent addition to the band, like doing stuff like this is kind of just still mind blowing to me every once in a while. So
Oh.
these guys probably business as usual, but for someone like me, it's kind of like, wow.
When did you join the band, Sam?
Myself personally, it's been about 2 years now, boys. Yeah. 2 years. About 2 years.
Getting close to 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more
Boy,
month.
how does it feel longer? No, I'm just kidding.
So-
I ask myself the same thing about you all the time, Kevin.
So were you on the latest record? My bad.
Yes.
You were chewing.
Yeah.
My fault.
He technically, yeah, he was, but he hadn't joined the band at the time.
Okay.
So
Nice.
initially, before I joined the band, I was still playing with another band back in the day called Everything Sucks. That unfortunately ended that the same year in 2020 or 2019. We had ended, and I was looking, just bounce around, looking for projects here and there to do. So by the time this was also when it was the height of COVID, there was a Black Lives Matter protest going on in Seattle, and there was all the protesting against policing going on at the time. And Johnny and I had talked a lot about wanting to collaborate on music and stuff. And he just shot a song I had my way and said how do you feel about throwing some lyrics down on this and singing over it? And I said this is the first time I've been asked to do something like this by a really cool and close friend of mine. So I decided to say, why not? Let's give it a shot. And threw some ideas back and forth, and that's how this most recent song from the record called Weird Lion came out to be. And I recorded guest vocals on that 2021, I want to say. So 2021 was when I helped record guest vocals when they were going through the recording process. And the next year is when they decided to hold tryouts. And I was a guitar player first, and I said, never done this before. It was a challenge of mine, wanted to play bass in the band ever since I played guitar in the last band. And for some reason, they said all right, this is the guy we want in the band after trying out, and then it's been awesome every day since.
That's awesome.
Puns and all.
Yeah.
And Kevin's.
That's great.
Hey, don't lie, Sam. The puns make it better.
They do.
So are you guys all from Seattle or the Seattle area?
I'm the only one actually from Seattle, I think, right?
Yeah, you're the only one that's born and raised there.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Idaho, but I've lived in Seattle longer than I ever lived there. So I kind of I count myself as like a Washingtonian now at this point.
Oh, I like that. Washingtonian. I like that. Yeah.
Washingtonian Seattleite,
Yeah.
But yeah, I lived here like longer than I've lived anywhere else. So I kind of not I didn't grow up here or born here, but yeah, this is my home pretty much now. So
What about you,
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'm not from here either. I'm from the Bay Area. Was born and raised there.
It's
Actually
from
went
the
to
Bay.
from the Bay. I went to school to college up in Western, which is about an hour and a half north of Seattle, and had a whole bunch of friends who moved down here after college. And so after a couple moves back and forth between Cali and Seattle, I officially moved here. June will be 12 years for me.
Okay. And Sam, what about you, buddy?
Myself, it's a little complicated question always when people ask me that, because they're all just like, oh, like, is Seattle original home? And for me, like, I just give the quick Cliff Notes version, which is I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York. Then I moved to Austin, Texas, then to Palisades Park, New Jersey, then to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I went to Seoul, South Korea, and lived there for 4 or 5 years to finish up high school. And I jumped to Washington, then I went over to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, and then I was able to come back in Seattle since 2010, 11, and I've been here ever since.
Nice.
That's the one place that's been consistent in my life. And people ask me if I'm military bred. It's like, no, just like my dad worked in software for a time being, so it was just a matter of where I needed him at that time. And,
Yeah.
ever since I
So one
grew up
thing,
and made-
what did you think of your time at Clark University?
why do you ask? I'm curious.
Because I'm right outside of Worcester.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so Worcester, as we like to call it. It was interesting because during that time when I was in Korea and just growing up, like I was just this one. I didn't get into punk rock myself until I was like 13, 14, around that age. And like by the time I went to Korea, it was like I was that one weird kid listening to punk rock music all the time, where everyone's all like K-pop, or like everyone had like a couple of like punk bands they're into, but like I was one kid like obsessed with it, and I always felt like odd one out for that matter. So by the time I got to Clark and Worcester, worldviews change and expand, and that's when I was like, oh my god, like this is the first time I felt like normal, like just being around people. And so like that's where I started playing in a punk band, a really short punk band out there called Abandoned Ship. And Clark University was probably Worcester in general was probably one of the coldest places I've ever stayed.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty cold.
definitely gets that credit. But it was a really great community. Shout out to Annie's diner over there, because their owner had just retired recently, but still one of the best places to get brunch over there. But it was a really great experience, musically, and just like meeting new people and getting new perspectives. But that was like formulative to me, like feeling like more comfortable in my own skin as somebody who's like, well, am I Asian or am I American? And I'm just kind of like, I'm both. I'm a complete package, different package experience. And from there, I'm like, I'm also this weird Asian American that likes punk rock. So by the time I got back over here in Seattle, graduated from from college, and started like going to those places like the Kraken and the U District, which thankfully is coming back, is the word that's out right now. And from there is when I started playing other bands and met these guys, and I was like, oh, like I kept in touch with these guys over the years. So
Nice.
just a quick tidbit.
Yeah. So Clark University is the one that's on Main South, right? It's on Main South.
Yes. That's correct.
That's a rough part of town. That's a rough part of town.
You know what? It was a rough part of town, but you also learn real fast. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. I lived in Worcester for 5 years, and then I moved out like right outside of Worcester where I am now. But yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. So I've always had like this draw to Washington. My stepfather was a Navy brat, and then he joined the Navy, or he was a military brat, and then he joined the Navy. And when his family, like they like, I don't know, they established in like the Bremerton area. So like I've always had ties there, and like I've been flown out there on job interviews before, and like it's so weird how I've always had this like gravitational pull to the Pacific Northwest like that. And like I haven't been out there in years now, but there's been like a few times where I've like almost moved there from when I was a kid, and like he wanted to stay there and wanted us to come out, and then he changed his mind and came back out here, or like just from work opportunities or whatever, just needed a change. And I don't know why. I just always kind of, it's always been something that pulls me out that way. And, so, yeah. So with that said, like I'm a huge, well, I mean, I don't really watch any kind of sports anymore, but I was a huge Red Sox fan, but I was also a Mariners fan, right? Because of my stepfather. Yeah. And then like when back in like the 90s, you couldn't watch any game you wanted on the NFL, like for NFL. So like when we could watch the Seahawks, we had to watch them, right? So like that was, so like that was like, yeah. So like I said, I've always had this like weird connection to out there that I like and I enjoy. Plus like growing up in the 90s, like, the music that came out of Seattle was just monumental for anybody, you know what I mean? For everyone. And yeah. But with that said, like the history, like the rich history of like music from Seattle, like is it, I know I've asked Rev this, and I think I might have even asked Nuck this when I had Nuck on from the Scoffs, but like, what do you guys like?
What earlier today? Actually.
Yeah. Oh, did you? So like, what's your take on it? Like, is it still like a boiling point for that, or is it like? Because I know a lot of people, like a lot of music people, went to Nashville, and like even whether or not your country, Nashville is kind of like the spot now, right? Like how, yeah. But like I still feel. I mean. Listen, every band from the Seattle area that I've listened to, I absolutely love. Like we just talked about, the Scoffs, the Drowns, you guys, Pipsqueak, the duo with the guy from Snuggle. You know what I mean? Stuff. Like is it still like to me? I mean, those are the only few bands that I've really. You guys are only like part of that few bands that I've discovered, but like. Is it still like that? Like, is it like that everywhere still, or is it not? And like, and with that said, like, is there like not a reputation to uphold, but like, is there pressure because of the way the music industry was there at all?
I mean, I don't necessarily feel like there's like pressure for that, but I mean, like, I still feel like there's a pretty rich like music scene up here at like it's like maybe not to the extent like it was in the 90s, but I kind of feel like there still is. It's just in it's much smaller pockets. It's more like it's just more I hesitate to say the word underground now and stuff like that, but like it's just more like it's smaller pockets. It's not as like looked at with the public eye as it once was, but it definitely doesn't mean that there aren't like killer scenes going on up here. They're smaller and kind of more insulated now, like stuff. But like just a ton of like awesome fucking bands that come out of here from like all genres and stuff like that. But
yeah, and let's face it too, like, and I've said this before on this podcast, like rock and roll music, it doesn't like whether it's punk rock, grunge, hardcore, metal, like it was never supposed to be pop, right? It was never supposed to be like that was people. I mean, people, the general public hated rock and roll, right? For forever, right? You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, boom, it's there and it's prominent and it's king. And like now, it's just like the only ones who get money were like. And then towards the end of like the money era, like I feel like that like the 90s was like the money era for music, right? They were throwing money at everybody, but then all of a sudden, the billionaires get involved and they want to reproduce the same sound over and over, and then people who don't want to do that start falling off, right? But like so like, as far as like an independent music, we'll say independent music community, like it's still there, it's still rich. I mean, it's got to be. I found, because every band, you guys were the only band that someone suggested to me. Like I found everyone else on my own, so I was like, this can't be like, this isn't just a coincidence, you know what I mean? Like there's something still going on there.
For sure.
I was just having this conversation either last night or the night before. I was talking to somebody and I was like, in general, I feel like the West Coast still has a very strong music scene, but Seattle especially, like anytime we go on tour or we go somewhere else or like just go on vacation and go and check out like a local bar or the local scene, it always makes me like we have this ongoing conversation here about like we're losing venues and there's less places to play, and it's just making the world smaller and smaller, and how we can share, we can all share our music with each other. But then I go other places, and then it makes me realize how, even though we might feel like we are losing certain things, we actually are. We have so much available to us here on a in terms of venues, in terms of awesome bands that like you really don't get a lot of places. And I feel like I'm not super connected into a lot of the other genres, but the punk scene specifically, as I feel, at least in the Pacific Northwest and like the Portland to Vancouver corridor, is so incredibly strong. There are so many amazing bands. I mean, you can do a 5 to 7 day tour and not drive more than an hour and a half, 2 hours.
That's awesome.
And have a different city every night with different scenes that are not cross pollinating at all, really. And so I definitely like, being that I'm not from here, I don't feel that sense of like anything to live up to necessarily. But like in terms of like, I'm happy to be a part of this scene. Like I got introduced to it by an old coworker from California I randomly ran into, and brought me to a DIY venue, and I started volunteering at that venue, and that's how I got introduced to the scene in the first place here. Back when there were DIY venues. I feel like there's very few now, but I feel like Seattle definitely has a very strong music scene and a lot of amazing bands that come out of here regularly.
Nice. Yeah. It's like that in Boston too, a little bit. Like it's still like we're losing venues by the day, but like well, I think a big thing is how small New England actually is. Like there's still places to go, you know what I mean? But like where Boston was, like Boston's like the hub though, like Boston's like, even for like Worcester bands and stuff like that, like Boston, like usually people in Boston aren't traveling out to Worcester to see a show, you know what I mean? So like, cause it's all right there, but like, it's a thing that it definitely like, especially since COVID, like things are just haywire right now,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the music scene in Seattle is just like, it's like ingrained in the sense of like before grunge, a lot of the hardcore bands didn't come up here on tour because it was just too far to drive. They go to like Portland and then like turn around. And the scene was really insular, but like really like community based. And I feel like even after grunge and like all the big bands came out of here, like that sort of like really close-knit feeling between bands and the community around here is still a thing. And I think that even if like you're not in a punk band and you play in a metal band or you play in an indie band or whatever, like we all kind of know each other. I don't think it's like super separate, because it is kind of like like we're a big city but we're not that big, so everybody kind of knows each other. So I think it's really community based, and I think that's the best part about it, really.
No doubt. I think like a lot of times too, like out here, there's a lot of, I don't know, like I think of like, to me, everything's rock and roll, right? You know what I mean? Like I love, I love punk rock and stuff like that, but like there's stuff that I hear and it's like what they're doing is like the punk rock thing. They're doing their own thing. They might not necessarily sound like a specific sound or whatever, you know what I mean? So we got some of that out here, which is good. I think it's good. I think it's, keeping each other, supporting each other regardless of that, is a huge thing. And it's why I usually, when I talk about specific places like New England, like I call it a music community as opposed to a scene, you know what I mean? And I think Seattle has that community, at least from everyone I've talked to so far out there. Like it's more of a community and less of a scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like, I don't think anybody out here is like, I think one of the things I like about the community out here is that, it's like, it's pretty supportive. Like everybody's pretty like, at least it feels like that to me. I don't know if anybody else, but like it's always kind of felt like everybody's doing it for the community and not so much like their own personal gain. Like obviously everybody wants their music project to do well and whatnot, but like it's always felt kind of like it was like, you know, what's, you know, it whatever's good for the community and stuff like that. And like it's always felt kind of a little bit like that's more in front of everything. And that's always what I've always kind of felt special about the scene up here in Seattle and stuff. It's a family, it's a community and stuff like that. And like everybody wants to see everybody doing good, you know. I kind of cheesy, but that's how I've always kind of.
No, it's not cheesy. You know? I think that's authentic. I think that's the way it's supposed to be. Really, you know. I mean, you know what I mean.
Like that's the thing. Like Sam mentioned, like the bar that we have up here. That's kind of been like our hub and our place, so the Kraken Bar and Lounge, and that's what it kind of like drove me to like to that kind of that place, was because that's like if I was like, man, everybody here seems so tight knit and so close, and they're like so welcoming, and it seems like a family vibe. Like going to that bar and like this other venue and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, we're going to see a show, but we're also going to see, like, you know, we're going to see friends and family at this point. You know, it's just like that's what every show kind of feels like a lot of the times. You know, it's like gonna go hang out with our extended family and see some cool bands and stuff. You know, it's like, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about Kids on Fire. You guys have been around for a minute, right? You guys it's been over 10 years.
Yeah. I think at this point, yeah. I think we missed our 10-year anniversary. We weren't paying attention, but yeah. So I think me and Johnny have tried to pinpoint it, but I think we finally agreed that I think 2010-ish was when we started this project.
You're officially a teenager.
Because this band was born out of Mikey and I's old street punk band, the Rain City Schwillers, and we started that band in 2005, I think.
Yeah, 2005.
Yeah, and so
me and Johnny are fucking old.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in really fast and say that, you know, these guys have been doing it for that long. Kevin and I are the more recent additions, but I feel like we complement them very well.
Yeah, no, you guys sound great, man.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and like I went back and I, like, you know, I started with the first couple EPs and I kind of went through everything. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, well, I got the new album first. I was like, I went and listened to it because I remember because I was following you guys on social media. So like I saw that you guys had posted that there was a new album, and like I buy so many damn records, like sometimes I forget if I bought something or not. You know what I mean? Right. So like, so like I end up like I went back the other, like because I just got it in the mail a couple weeks ago. So like I went back and I was like, I don't think I have this yet. You know, so I grabbed it, I snagged it obviously, but then I was like, let me go through everything because, and like I said, you know, you guys have been on my radar for a while because of, like, you know, the other guys spoke highly of you, you know, and like sometimes with Rev, he throws so much damn music at me, like some things fall through the cracks for a little bit, you know.
yeah, he'll do that, man. Like back in the day when he used to bartend and stuff down in Georgetown, I would go on Wednesday nights mainly just to hang out and just like have a couple of beers and like shoot the shit with him and stuff like that. But he would like without fail every time he was like, hey, have you heard this song? Have you heard this band? Like, check this out. Let me throw this on for you. Let me throw this on.
Rev taught me about Boston bands that I didn't know existed, that I, you know, and I'm here, like I'm basically here, you know what I mean? Like Boston street punk was like what got me into like doing a lot of things. I went to a Dropkick Murphy show and I saw the Ducky Boys, and then from there on, like I was like Boston music is like my thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like it's just like, and I was like, he's like an encyclopedia.
Yeah, he's nuts with like him and Nuck, honestly, are like two of some of the most like their musical encyclopedia that they have in their head, of like stuff that they like listen to and that they can just pull out and be like, oh, if you like that band, you should definitely check out this one because that band's kind of influenced by these guys. And, oh man, you know, it's like
it's funny you say that because like now, like what I do because of the podcast, not even just, I've always been this way. Like when people are like, you know the lazy general public, they're like, there's no good music anymore. blah blah blah. Nothing sounds like this. So I'm like, well, what do you like? And then they'll throw something at me, and I'm like, oh, all right, you'll like this band, and they just put out a new record. You know what I mean? So I do that like in the defense of the music community. You know what I mean? Like I'm always like,
Well, and there's nothing better than the feeling of finding a new band that you're stoked on too. You know, like I love finding that stuff, whether it's like through a friend or through like a random sampler that I got from somewhere. Like I remember getting a White Lung record because Johnny turned me on to them. They're like a Canadian, like kind of punky hardcore kind of band, kind of ish. But one of their records came with a download code for their record company's a sampler for them.
Yeah.
And because of them, I found this like French punk band whose name is escaping me right now, but Youth Avoiders. This French punk band called Youth Avoiders and stuff, and like their song on there, I was like, dude, what the fuck, this is awesome. And then like I went and got all their stuff, you know. It's like and then also found out that I missed them playing in Seattle by 2 weeks after I found out about them.
Oh man. I've had that happen with bands. Like, well, and I've like, that's happened to me way too many times.
I mean, that's why it's like great, like with guys like you and Rev and Nuck and like some other couple of people like that, you know, that are like that can turn that onto it. Because there's, like I said, there's no better feeling for me when I find a new band that I get really stoked on, you know.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you guys had like you had 2 EPs that kind of dropped, right? And then according to Bandcamp, you guys have like a space period there where like nothing new came out. What like was that like, were you guys on a hiatus, or were you guys just busy and playing? You were still playing?
No, I mean, we were still playing. We just I don't know, we just lost like all like we were just playing out like sporadically, and we're just like we kind of lost focus on stuff. But like we were still playing out like regularly. We just like we had a couple of member changes and stuff like that, and it was always just kind of a like work kind of started getting in the way and stuff a little bit. Like Johnny just started his tattoo apprenticeship at that point and stuff too. And like,
life.
We kind of let things like fall behind and whatnot, so we kind of got a little lazy there for a bit.
I think also like at the time, like Mikey and I were both in other bands, weren't like super distracting, but it was enough of a thing where like we weren't focused mainly on Kids on Fire the entire time. And it was just like a combination of things. It's almost like the band started in 2010 but didn't really get going until like 2017.
2017-ish, 2016-ish, I guess. But yeah, like pretty much everybody in the band at that point in time was in a side project or had a secondary like thing going on. But we also didn't have somebody in the band like Kevin, who's like a booking machine and stuff either. So we were kind of just taking shows as they came. We weren't actually like making shows happen either. But yeah, we just it was a combination of those kind of things where we had other projects that kind of got in the way, and life got in the way a little bit, and we just kind of, I don't know, we weren't taking it quite as seriously back then. I don't think, like we were just like, we're just like kind of a goofy fucking pop punk band, whatever and stuff. But it wasn't until like 2016 or 17 where we kind of like, oh, you know what? People actually kind of dig it. So like, we should be a little more serious about this, I guess. So.
Yeah. And then you guys followed that up with Songs in the Key of Bummer, right? That was the next project that came out, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's a good album. I was checking that one out today. I just saw it was on vinyl too, so I'm gonna have to snag that next too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we can send you one. Yeah, for sure. I mean that was definitely a changing point for us. Kevin had just come on board about a year prior to that record. And like when he came on board, it was like I said, we were kind of like a little stagnant. We were just playing out here and there and having fun, but just kind of doing it at a kind of a slow pace and stuff like that. When Kevin came on, he was also in a band called Dreadful Children, and he was doing all the booking for them and stuff like that. And he was just like energetic as all hell and stuff. So when he came in, it was kind of like a adrenaline shot to the arm, and we just kind of like lit a fire under our ass and just started playing out like all the time.
Right on. Kevin is like doing the booking and that aspect of it. Like, is that like is that like fill something for you too? Like, is just as much as playing music? You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because like before I did the booking, like I wasn't doing booking for Dreadful. It got born out of a bad breakup and not wanting to spend a lot of time by myself. And so I was like, hey, do you guys care if I book us as much as possible? Say no if you don't want me to. And everyone was like, yeah, sure. And so I just started guerrilla booking. And I mean, personally, for me, it gives me anxiety seeing a blank calendar.
Yeah, me
but
too.
If I see all these marked off red and green dates and scheduled plans, I fucking love it. I love having something to look forward to, having shows to look forward to. But I never, if you had asked me, before I joined the band, like, do you want to be a booker? I've been like, no, that seems stressful. I don't want to do that. But ever since I've jumped into it, it definitely feels like I'm an organization person. I thrive on, you don't want to see my email. I have subfolders upon subfolders,
Right on.
Started spreadsheeting our tours in Excel. So like it definitely feels something to an extent of like, I enjoy booking. I enjoy the satisfaction when you get that show finally all confirmed. You're like, I can mark that off my list and not worry about it and go on to the next one. And there's always a next one as long as and they, to these guys, like, to their credit, man, they let me book more than a lot of people would.
Yeah.
Like we're all kind of in that perfect scenario where we don't own a house. We don't, like, for the most part, Sam's got a partner, but none of us are like married and have kids, and we don't have a lot of these gates that keep a lot of bands from being able to play as much as they want to play. We don't have those hindering us. And so I love that everyone's kind of in the mentality of like, if we're going to push as hard as we're going to push as a band, this is the prime time to do it when we don't have a lot of those factors in play that, might hold us back to some extent. And, they made one rule, is that I'm not allowed to book every weekend of the month. So I tell them 3 out of 4 weekends I'll book.
After,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just after last year, we went pretty hard with the booking and stuff like that. We're basically playing like every weekend, and so we started getting a little like little missing our friends and family at home and stuff like that. So yeah, but also like he's a little humble about it, but like he is like an amazingly good at like booking and stuff like that, and he's been awesome like at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would say like if it wasn't for Kevin, we probably wouldn't have like pushed out as far as we've been like trying to do and stuff like that.
And to his credit, like, I don't think we would have gotten half as and like some of the most amazing cool opportunities that we had. Like, I mean, just a quick example, last year I got to tour Europe with these guys for the first time, and that was one of the most incredible, awesome experiences because I checked off a couple of bucket list items, which was going to Ireland and also going to Scotland. And
nice.
Just the fact that was able to happen, I'm like, oh, cool, this is amazing. Like, I'm gonna let him do his thing. But again, like Mikey said, once it became like every month, every week thing, it was just kind of like, dude, I don't know if I can do this every week.
No doubt.
And to their credit, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it if they weren't as flexible. Like, our standing. If I had to get a permission for every show I booked, I wouldn't do it because it would drive me crazy waiting on everyone to respond.
Yeah.
So, like, to their credit, their flexibility really makes a difference because unless somebody brings a show to us, I don't ask most of the time. And we have a rule that blackout dates go on our shared calendar. If you have a date you for sure don't want to play, put it on the calendar. I won't book over it. But if it's not, it's fair game. And I used to say like 2-3 months out, but like right now I'm booking some stuff in September. So like I'm 6 months out. We have a tour in October, our second tour of the year. I haven't even fully finished booking our first tour in July, and I'm already like, we're talking dates, and I want to start lining stuff up in all our venues and stuff like that.
Where are you guys heading on tour? For the first tour?
So
doing
sorry.
we're doing the West Coast in July.
Okay.
Just going back down the West Coast, but in October we're gonna do for the first time we're heading east.
How far?
We'll be in your neck of the woods, man. We're gonna hit Boston. We're hitting the East Coast for sure.
Okay.
Well, I'm planning to try at least. It's I didn't realize how much this last album meant to Sam because in October it'll be the best of the worster times.
Yeah.
When I say he's been an amazing shot in the arm for the band back when he joined, it's also been horrible because we didn't realize that with him came every pun known to man.
No doubt. Well, real quick sidebar. When we're done with recording, just give me a few minutes we'll talk about the East Coast thing. All right.
For sure, yeah.
All right, cool.
That's
the plan
for October, though. Yeah, it's like we're gonna drive through the Midwest and play shows in the Midwest, and then hit the East Coast. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway, and then book it back to Seattle so we can get back to not get yelled at by our employers.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean 2 weeks to drive across and back, so it'll be a lot of driving.
So when I was 8 years old, my stepfather, before he'd married my mom, he brought us out to Washington, and we drove because my mom was deathly afraid of airplanes at the time. And I don't appreciate it now. I mean, then I didn't really. I mean, to me, then it was like, yeah, okay, we drove cross country, but to me as an adult, it's like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Not only that, we did it in a fucking 85 Monte Carlo.
Oh shit!
So me as an adult was like, that's awesome, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I just remember I remember driving out there and then I don't even really remember driving back. I just remember driving out there because that's where we made all our stops, along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a long drive though. I remember that much,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be the fun part and stuff. We definitely want to that's like I said, that's the goal destination is to get out there and stuff.
Cool. That would be awesome.
Definitely not looking forward to the some of the drives on the way back, but that's what you got to do, man.
So
what you got to do.
I want to ask something about songs in the key of bummer. You guys have a hidden track on the last song on Shotgun. What possessed you to do that? I think it's awesome. I miss hidden. I was just talking to someone the other day about hidden tracks and how I miss the shit out of them.
Yeah. I mean, that was the song I wrote. I'm not sure how much before we started recording I wrote that song, but everybody liked it. And I had just a phone recording of it that was pretty cool, but we didn't think would work just on the record. So we reworked the song into an actual track on the album. What's funny is the version of Delridge with the full band. It's and it's nothing against any of us, but I don't love that version of it. I actually prefer the acoustic version of it. So we kind of wanted to have the two versions on the record. And I grew up in the 90s as well. So I love, hidden tracks. I think that's super cool. The Green Day record Hidden Track was always a big deal, So I think that was kind of the vibe. Since we already put the whole band version of it on the album, it wouldn't make any sense, to just have another track. So we thought it would be cool to just have it as a secret one.
Yeah.
So.
I like that. I was listening because when I was listening to it and it ends and then I'm I was just sitting here and it started and I was like, wait, what just happened? I had to backtrack on it to make sure I didn't screw something up there. It was awesome. It was awesome to, it hit some nostalgia vibes for me,
Yeah. We thought it'd be fun to throw on there as well. With the last track that it's hidden behind.
Yeah.
Cause the whole album's about, bummer and bummer this and sad this, blah, 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 But we thought it would be funny to have like one song at the end of the album that was like goofy
Yeah.
and fun, but
Yeah.
then like bring it back to like what the album was too by like
then bring it back down. Bring it back down
to like and include the like the original inspiration for that song.
Oh, that's awesome
and stuff. But yeah,
that's awesome. So
Well,
and anytime I get to yell at Kevin on record is fun.
yeah, I really heard the conviction in that. It didn't feel like a play anymore. Well, and you know, that song Del Ridge, like we all, I like the full band version, but like when Johnny originally showed it to us in this acoustic recording on his phone, there was just this like deep, heavy feeling while listening to it, and that's what drew at least me to the song the first time. The first time I listened to it, I was like almost crying by the end of it. I was like, I want to be able to capture that as best as we can, because you can't capture that with the full band. Like, and we did our best with the secret track, and like there's still a part of me that's like we didn't quite capture that essence that was on that phone recording, but like there's still like trying to bring it back to like that was what inspired the full song in the first place. Like there's this passion and this feeling behind it that is really hard to emulate anywhere.
And I mean, I think we were gonna try to do something like that on the new record too, but we didn't have. We kind of gave ourselves kind of a time crunch to do everything and get all the songs ready to go, and we just didn't get it done. But we were kind of like, well, yeah, we should do another like funny song like kind of at the end, or like a secret kind of esque song, whether it's like a serious song or a goofy song or whatever. But yeah, we ran out of time, but that was definitely the plan. It was to do something like that again, because like you said and Johnny said, like I grew up in that area where I love like secret tracks and stuff like that.
It's just fun. They're just fun. It's like, oh, it's a bonus. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and like on every album, like any genre of album back in the 90s, that was always the thing. Like I remember like listening like to, I think to like the first Deftones record. And there's like that weird track about like on both their first few records, I think there's like a weird track about 5 minutes after the last song, and those songs are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and what's funny is I was at grabbing some groceries today, and I walked by a pizza place that our friend Alice works at, and so I went in and I was shooting the shit with Alice for a little bit, and I should know this guy's name, and I'm totally brain farting on it. I was brain farting on his name too, but somebody came up to me and he was like, "Hey, tell Mikey I said Shark Gun. I love Shark Gun." And I was like, "Oh, you don't know. Mikey hates that song. You should personally message him that we need to play Shark Gun more, because he will tell you no."
I heard that yesterday. My client yesterday told me that is his favorite song off that record.
Because of course it is.
All I know is that if you give us a certain amount of money, and might be able to make it happen. Who knows?
We're gonna pull Mikey kicking and screaming onto stage to play it.
Oh,
I've played it on stage before. I'm a sucker. If somebody calls me out on it live, I end up having to play it. But I'm not gonna be happy about it.
To be fair, Mikey can take all of this on, so I don't want to poke that bear.
Oh man,
it's one of those songs. Like I always have to be careful about anything that I mention at practice when I'm joking around.
Yeah,
because without any doubt and inevitability, it will always happen this way. That when I do like play like a joking song that I think is funny, everybody else in the room is going to be like, "That's awesome. We should actually make that a song. Let's make that into one of our songs." Like, no, that was just, I was joking around, man. I was just being a dumbass. Like I was just goofing. Like, no, that rules. Let's make that into the set. Fuck.
And to be fair, we are now the owners of like 2 or 3 different shark squirt guns people have gifted us over the years.
That's awesome. That's it.
Oh, I've had a couple of people that were like, "Dude, so what is that about? Like, what is a shark gun?" I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Literally just something that blurted out of my mouth because I was like, pop punk songs are fucking easy and fun to play, man. They're funny, easy to write. Check it out. So when I was just goofing around at practice, and then like, yeah, and then I end up regretting it later because it becomes an actual thing.
Yeah.
So we have a new practice joke song. We'll put it on the next record.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the best of the worst of times. So Alive you guys dropped that as a single in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how long were you guys like sitting on this record because of everything that was going on with COVID, or was this something you guys were working at for a while to get to where you wanted it?
This record was a saga to get done.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember we released Alive because we'd actually written that one.
Well, the version of Alive we released was the one we recorded for. So we had a Japan tour scheduled to start St. Patrick's Day, March of 2020.
Oh, whenever someone tells me a March of 2020 story that revolves around like their art or their business, it breaks my fucking heart every single time.
Yeah.
And this was such a cool deal too. We were going to Japan for 5 days and to play like 5 different shows. They were re-releasing Songs in the Key of Bummer with 4 older tracks from our EPs that we re-recorded with our current lineup and the way that we currently play it. And then on top of that, at no cost to us other than we got to record it and send it, they were releasing a comp album between us, our bassist at the time, Sid, his other band, The Emergency Exit, and 2 Japanese bands. And they were going to release that with this album on that tour and pay for all the production and everything. All we had to do was send them tracks.
Oh.
And so and it was like, oh my God, we never get offered this kind of like free stuff. And they ended up sending us like 50 copies of each from, because the tour had to cancel. I mean, we literally, when COVID started happening, we were all like, should we do it? Should we do it? Like, we should still do it. People are still playing shows. We're daily talking with our contacts over there. And it just got to the point where like we almost got on that plane, and we decided to pull the tour 3 days before we were supposed to step on foot on the plane.
Yeah.
It was more of the like we couldn't risk getting stuck there. That was the issue because everything was so chaotic at that time.
I think it might have been there was a band that I had on that like they got the call while they were getting to the airport.
Oh, jeez.
That it was, I think it might have been Doc Rotten. They were getting to getting to the airport when they got the call, and they were like, nothing can happen. Which I guess is better than flying somewhere overseas and then being stuck there. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that was like the big concern of what eventually decided it for us. That we were just like, man, dude, what if we get stuck there? Like, none of us have like big piles of like savings.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like
and if you don't have people there, like, what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we can't inconvenience the people that are putting us up for like God knows how long, you know. But it ended up being the right decision though too, because like I think like less than a week after that, like a couple of days after we should have touched down in Japan, we got the call from like our contact over there, and they were just like, yeah, they just shut down all venues and stuff like that, like no community gatherings and stuff like that of any nature. So I was like, well, I guess that is the right decision, but still sucks.
And we did, there was a band that practices across the hall from us at our current space, and they had not that in that space, but in our same practice building, and their drummer actually did get stuck in Ireland and couldn't come home for like 2-3 months.
Oh yeah.
And so they were just like out of their drummer was stuck over there. They were like practicing, with the fill in, and he was like, yeah, I don't know when I can come back. Like, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Like,
yeesh.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the start of this record then was.
Yeah. I mean, so we had that song. We released it live because of the pandemic, and we had recorded it for that comp as a new song, because they said it would be, they asked us if we had any new material and stuff. So we had just written that song, so we recorded it. But yeah, everything on the new record pretty much came out of us jamming during the shutdown and stuff like that, and not being able to play shows for that whole year. We just masked up and went to practice, and then like, well, we can't play shows, so let's just like we got all the time now to like write new songs, so let's do it.
Yeah.
And we weren't really doing anything else. So that was like, I was like, well, a couple of us, like me and Mikey work in manufacturing, so like we didn't have a choice. They forced us to go into the office as essential workers into the plant, and Johnny's a tattoo artist, so he had to stop until they could say tattoo shops were open, and so like we were each other's bubbles. Not like we really had any other bubbles to like be our little COVID bubble or whatever. So it was like, all right, well, I'd rather have a practice COVID bubble than no bubble at all and just stay at home. So.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if you can tell by listening, but yeah, it's definitely like a COVID record. It's definitely a lot of a fair amount of the songs on there are like about that whole time period. And that's what the name of the title references. That's obviously where that came from. It's like, well, we got these little times where we can hang out with each other, and these are literally the best of the worst of times. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
So I really like the album. Alive is a great track, and I really liked Loss. Loss was my other favorite of, if I had to pick two. You know what I mean? It's those two.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's the writing process for you guys? Like, is it a team effort? Like, who do each of you do specific things for the writing of it, or?
I think, well, basically the way we usually do it is like Mikey and I will write songs kind of by ourselves, and then we'll bring, what we have, whether it's a riff or even just like a full song idea, to practice. And then everybody like contributes their own thing to it at that point, and then it slowly becomes the Kids on Fire song.
Yeah.
But I think with this next album, when we start writing again, there'll probably be a little bit more collaboration as far as like maybe even jamming in the space, or like, us getting together to like write, having like certain parts and then getting together to write. But like the way we've been doing it is like me and him bringing songs separately to the band.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, typically when I like for anything that I bring in, it's like usually about 50% of a completed song. It's a handful of riffs and an idea of where I want it to go, and then I bring it to these guys and like, do you guys think this is cool? Do you guys want to work on it? And then and then it's from there. It's like the floodgates are open. Like any ideas anybody has, like it's like I'm usually like I had these parts in mind. I'm not really sure where to go with it on this part, and people jump in with ideas and whatnot, and then we'll eventually arrive at a full song. But yeah, it's mostly like we come in, I think, and Johnny tends to typically come in with more like finished stuff, more than I do, at least. But yeah, it's, and I mean, and there's a couple of songs on there that were definitely like on the like jam sessions that ended up becoming a full song. Like Bye Felicia came about just because I was noodling around a guitar, like again doing something I thought was like kind of funny and stuff like that, and Kevin was like, what is that? I like that let's jam on that.
Yeah.
And then we wrote a song out of that moment, and stuff. So
when you guys, so do you guys write lyrics first, or do you make the melodies first and then the lyrics come after? Or does it depend?
I usually, like Mikey was saying, I'll write like the bare bones version of the song, but I'll have like the chorus idea and the basic idea of the lyrics, and then like the rhythm of the song, and then I'll bring that to the band, and then everybody, puts their awesomeness into it and makes it way better. But as far as like the way I write, I usually just write on acoustic guitar, and I'll write the lyrics before I even really have the whole like idea of the riff of the song together yet. That's just kind of how I do it. So
I think we're like opposite ends of the same spectrum, because like I'm the complete opposite. Like I write the music and stuff like that, because I absolutely hate writing lyrics.
Mm.
I've never, it's never been my favorite thing to do because I don't think I'm like the greatest at it, honestly. So like it's always the thing that I put off till the very end.
Yeah. Well, no,
It's rare that I have a song that I'm like, oh yeah, no, I already have like there's one song where I actually had lyrics already ready to go and stuff like that. And on the last album, that was Slot Buckets, but that was because that was a song that like had a pretty like, it was about a song I wrote about some friends that had gotten killed and stuff like that. So like I had like the bulk of that like already, but yeah, for the most part, that is the thing I put off till the very end.
Right. Well,
And
oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna say, you know, like every band I've ever been with, like the writing process seems to be slightly different. Like I come from a band experience growing up where it's like it would always be written from like one riff and then you jam on it till it's a full song. I rarely ever was there a full song brought in. It was always just created from scratch in this space at the time. But I was usually working with like one person. And you know, something I really enjoy about this band is like, even if somebody doesn't agree with you, everyone is willing to like try your idea once and see how it goes. And you know, sometimes we're like, yeah, no, it's just not working. Other times we're like, oh shit, that works. Like that we actually really like that. Let's move forward with that. But you know, there's no one who's like the control of like, no, I will not try that. I will not do that. Like everyone's at least willing to like, even if they're hesitant, everyone is at least willing to try it like at least once. And the funny thing is like for Lost, like you mentioned, like that normally these guys come with their lyrics, and that's the one song where Johnny was like, I've got a melody but I don't have lyrics yet, and I was like, do you care if I take a stab at it? Like, and I think of myself as good at concept writing but not actually like forming it into song format, but I'm good at like ideas. And so I wrote like the bass lyrics for that one, and then he tweaked it to be his style of sound and kind of be more of a fluid, like actually melodic song.
No doubt. Yeah. So I always ask that because I write, but I have never been able to write a song. And like, I don't, it's maybe because I don't hear melodies. You know what I'm saying? Like when you come up with like something, I just hear, like I have visuals and I see words and like, you know what I'm saying? So like, to me, it's the big mystery. Like I think the podcast would end if I figured out how to write a song. but much to what you said, Kevin, like no one's ever come in here with the same concept of how they do it. You know what I mean? Everybody writes it differently. So, you know, one day I'll write one and then I'll be able to retire from podcasting, I think, you know.
If you look at I have a whole, you know, year's worth of lyric notes on my phone that when the inspiration comes, I write down lyrics, but if you read them out loud, it's like, dude, this guy really likes slam poetry. And I'm like, nope, I just can't write verses and choruses.
Yeah. So like what I call like the couple stabs at it that I've done is like, I'm like, it's a treatment at best. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, maybe you could do so. Cause like I write a lot of different things, but like I write a lot of like self-reflection essays and stuff like that. And it's a lot of that shit's dark, you know? So, I mean, I know it would work if I knew how.
That's how bread and butter you're talking to right now.
That's pretty much like off with their heads right there. It's like stuff to make the dark essays to put into popular song format.
Yeah.
We don't call it bummercore for nothing.
Yeah. So like a lot. All right. So this is the kind of leading into this one. Like your songs, a lot of your songs, you know, are vulnerable, right? You guys put a lot of it into there. When you guys end up with a song and everyone's added their part to it, right? Are you all feeling the same thing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, does it do the same thing for you that like, say like lyrically, you know, like you wrote a song, Mikey, you said you wrote a song about friends of yours that passed away. Like once everybody gets in the room and it's all put together, like, does everybody feel the same thing? You know what I mean?
I think it's it's different for every song, I think, and stuff like that. Like there's some songs I think, everybody's on the same page once they find out about it. But I know I couldn't pinpoint the song to you, but I know for a fact there's been a song that I wrote and that we played many times at like practice and stuff like that. And Kevin has like asked me a little bit about it, and I told him, where the song came from and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh shit, man, that is not even remotely close to it." Like, it's like I was going in a total different direction with that shit, and I was like, I mean, that's cool.
It still works, right? Yeah, because I guess at the end of the day, like music is like, you know, it's subjective to whoever's doing it, like listening to it or whatever. So I guess it would be the same for if you're making it together, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah. I mean, that's that's music. It's supposed to be like your interpretation of it, right? You know,
yeah.
Like there's a song from the Gits that I'm pretty sure like it means a certain thing to me, but I'm fairly certain that it is not what they wrote the song about at all. But like to me, every time I listen to it, it makes me think of a particular thing, you know. But it's a song they got called Whiplash and stuff like that, and I think of it like anytime that I feel like I get a little too out of control with like partying and stuff like that, or drinking, you know, like drinking or whatever and stuff like that, and that's a song that comes to mind, and things that I think about with that in regards to myself and stuff, you know. But I'm pretty sure that song's not actually about that. I'm pretty sure it's about like mental health and like mental disorder and stuff like that, but that's what that song means.
That's relative, though, you know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Totally.
Like, yeah,
but you know, like, but that's what that song means to me. But but to bring it back to that though, but I know there's been a talk that me and Kevin have had about a couple of songs that I've written. There's like, oh shit, that's not necessarily what I thought you were writing that song about, but that's good to know. But,
yeah,
like that's not what I've been operating under for like the last like couple months. But
no doubt, yeah.
But it should be, you know, subjective and relative to however like you as the listener and stuff like that should be able to interpret it, you know.
How's the reception been for the new record? It's like, I mean, you guys are almost sold out of it, right? I saw that on Bandcamp. It said you only had a few copies left or whatever.
I mean, on Bandcamp, that's just my little thing. So that I've been caught in one or two instances where like you have to manually update all Bandcamp inventory. So I keep it at a low stock on Bandcamp so that I don't accidentally like sell something we don't actually have.
Yeah.
I would say overall it's been selling pretty decently. It's been it's been received fairly well, like at live shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And stuff like that. I couldn't say how much people are digging it more or less than the previous record, but it seems like everybody's gotten a pretty good reception from it every time since we released it back in October.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was a little, I don't know about everybody else. I definitely was a little concerned when we released it, just because it's not like a huge departure from like the last record, but it's got some different elements on there, you know. Like the last record was definitely more of like a kind of fast, like minus a couple of songs, but you know, fast, upbeat, like and shit like that. But like this album, we definitely threw in a couple of like different elements that we hadn't done before, you know. So I wasn't sure if that was gonna like people were like gonna roll with it and like dig it or not, you know. So I definitely had like a fear that some people were like, oh, they changed, man.
I hate that. I hate that. I had a conversation with Rev about that. I'm not even gonna get into that again because like I was like, people just are so blah. All right, never mind. We're not gonna talk about that. But yeah, you know, you guys' record is great. I like it. I really do. Like I said, it definitely like there was definitely some songs that had like alternative vibes to it, and you know what? Like I say this too all the time, and I'm gonna say it again. We as people and as artists and as whatever else we want to be need to constantly evolve, you know.
Totally.
If we're not evolved, we're stagnant, and how is that good for anything? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know. So I dig the direction of the record for sure. I mean everything from like where you guys track the track listing of it and how it flows, and like I'm a storyteller, so like that shit may not always be like the most significant thing for a band to do, but like when I hear a certain like flow to an album, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I get it, you know? So
yeah.
Well, that's definitely something that we kept in mind. Like we've had many conversations about like this song should go here because it's got to have this kind of transition and this, you know, we do think of it like a a story in a sense of what you're listening to, even though
Yeah.
the songs may not all be. I mean, they're all thematic to an extent, but they're not, necessarily following a storyline.
Right. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't have to be a concept album for it to be an overarching kind of vibe or story.
Yeah, and I think the album has been well received. I was definitely a little nervous because we self-released the album as well. We were hoping to kind of push that envelope and put it out on a bigger label this year. And we just weren't getting the bites we were hoping for, so we decided to release it on our own. And I think I feel like we've done well. There's definitely been some songs that like I think stand out that like people have really caught on to. Like we pushed "We Are Family" as a single with the music video, and people seem to really like that one. And it's a great song. And I mean, I look at the album too as like, it's progression. It's a progression album too. Like, our first two EPs are very like, street pop, street punk. Like they're very straightforward, kind of fast party songs. They're not all about partying, but it's just kind of got that feel to me.
Yeah.
And the last album is like an evolution in the sound where you start to kind of hear the band venture more out into the, much more heavily into the melodic theme of melodic punk. And this album I looked at as, Mikey was playing a lot more with the ambience kind of sounds. And I brought a double pedal into this, like accented double pedals, which weren't on the last album at all. And so I felt like we definitely, even though we kept our sound that we have been evolving and developing, we are changing our sound to not just be one thing, and I really like this album, and I definitely see it as like a progression and an evolution of like, if you listen to the EP, our first EPs, and you listen to this newest album, like, yeah, you can hear this is the same band, but also you can hear like, whoa, this is a different band too at the same time,
I think like a lot of bands during the lockdown, people were more prone to kind of fuck around with experimenting and stuff. Like I was talking to other friends that were in bands that were like, yeah, I used like an effects pedal on this song that I wrote, that like normally they wouldn't have done that, and I think we were all kind of messing around with that stuff. And I like it because it's so kind of eclectic and experimental. And it's also definitely like a lot more of a political record than we've done before. And I like the idea that it's like slightly divisive in the sense that like, it's going to get people talking. And I love that because, we wanted to say the things that we feel and that, the things that we believe on this record for sure. And yeah, I'm proud of it. I think, before we put it out, we had some people listen to it and there were some comments about it sounding kind of like all over the place. But honestly, like as time has gone on, I think it makes the record what it is. So I'm happy about it. So.
But for me though, like being all over the place is just, that's kind of normal. I mean, like the bands that I grew up listening to were kind of like that. Like my favorite band still to this day is like, it's, cause I got into like punk rock, like pretty late, like in my later teens and stuff like that. So like growing up, like my favorite band was Faith No More, and those guys are all over the place on every album. So like that's just like normal for me. It's like, oh yeah, why would our album be exactly like the same tone throughout the whole thing? It's like that's that's cool, but like that's not where my brain typically how it works. Like,
yeah.
Well, and for me, it definitely like something, and I've heard this comment too, is like, it's like part, before I joined the band, ever since I first heard Kids on Fire, Kids on Fire was one of my favorite bands in Seattle. And that was years before I ever joined. I tried to go to as many shows as I could. Like Mikey jokes that like there was this bar called the Streamline. They did a closing show where it was like a tear down the bar show, like ceiling tiles were falling down. It was a total chaos. And, there's this joke that is like, oh yeah, Kevin was creeping on the band before he was in it because there's a picture of me like right in Mikey's face while he's singing because we're all crammed in there like sardines.
Yeah.
I'm just like staring at them, and that's like, years before I ever joined. And so like this band has always been one of my favorite in the city, just, the energy and the vibe, and it's just a fun band, and musically it's great. But one thing that has always stood out to me is like, and I especially, you see it on Songs of the Key of Bummer, and like, I feel like it was even in this new album, even more apparent is Mikey and Johnny are two different writing people, and they write distinctly different styles. Like if you listen to the album, you can kind of tell some of the stuff Johnny writes and some of the stuff Mikey writes. And some people would say that's like, oh, you guys can't make up your mind about what you want to do. And to me, that's like, no, that's because this is the band. This actually shows who the band is. This shows you we that's part of what makes this band so special to me is it has two different sounds. It's not just, you can tell every song is written by the same person. No, you can tell that there are like different people that write these songs, and you can hear it in the way that it's written. And I've always seen that as something part of what makes us as a band special and enjoyable is that we don't just have one primary songwriter. We all contribute, but you can tell there are two minds behind all the different songs that get written, and that's part of, I think, an advantage for us that we have two different sounds and we all make it sound like us.
No, I mean that's been like one of my favorite things. Like a lot of like swinging utters, like it's like you can tell like a lot of times who wrote which songs on those, but I love that, because I was like, oh, this is a Spike song, or oh, this is a Johnny song. It's like I love that kind of stuff, like them and even Bad Religion to a point. I mean, I know all their songs like are so, but like you can tell which ones Mr. Brett wrote or which ones Greg wrote and stuff like that a lot of times. And yeah, I mean those are I enjoy those things quite a bit as well.
And to continue on to that point, like one of the biggest things also, like Kevin was saying, was when I was able to be able to join this band and play music with them, was this that whole like dueling guitars, like vocalist style is like it opens so many venues for other ways you can go with the music. Like, for example, one of my all-time favorite bands, Hot Water Music, now has 3 amazing singers in it. So you have Chris Criswell, you have Chuck Reagan, you have Chris Wallard, and those guys are all heavyweight songwriters on their own. So to hear like even like all these amazing people get together and like make the songs that they do, and then you have people such as the Bomb Pops, like they had during the time they had 2 singers, like you could tell who it was what song, and like did anyone complain that it was chaotic? No, like it just kind of just added all together. So like for me, like being able to have those distinct styles but still be in the flavor of a Kids on Fire song is amazing. And also to carry on to your point about people not being allowed to evolve, just a quick shout out, when I first heard Dropkick Murphys on the Do or Die record, that was like a street punk record thing. But the thing that really brought me back to them was the Going Out in Style record. And I will fight anyone on this. That record from front to back is all bangers from front to back. So like if a band's not allowed to evolve, then it's kind of just like, what, do you just want to hear the same old hits all over and over?
Right,
like,
right.
Maybe you just want to hear a little bit of variety in there. Is that so wrong? So
yeah, I've never been a person who like when a band changes, like my taste changes too. You know what I mean? So you can't hate on a band for doing something different. You know what I mean? Like
well, it's also like those kind of people that go to a show after like a band puts out a new album. They go to the show and they're like, oh yeah, it was a good show, but like they played like a lot of like new stuff. They play a lot of the old stuff. I'm like, because the new record rules.
Exactly.
Dude. Like, what are you talking about?
Dude, I give it the Red Hot Chili Peppers did that. Red Hot Chili Peppers did that.
I will say personally myself, like there is a fine line. There's a fine line where like it gets a little too weird, but then like it's a very thin line to balance, but it's like a mix of like your old style but throwing enough of a new spin on it that people are just like, holy crap, like this is like a new version of the stuff that we love. And I think it's a very fine line to like balance, but it's a hard one to figure out. But I'd like to think that with this record that these guys were able to do it, and then I come out and play songs live, so it became a whole thing.
It's like like not to like bring Rev up all the time and stuff like that, but that was like their album release show. Like I was actually really happy. They played like a lot of new songs off of that album. Like they played the hits, obviously off their Under Tension and stuff like that too. But they played like a lot of their majority of their set was like a lot of stuff off of Blacked Out.
Yeah,
which was great, So like, but yeah, I don't understand that mentality. It was like, yeah, they played mostly new stuff. It was kind of, it wasn't
yeah. This is, I get fired up, man. I get fired up about that.
Yeah, like I've been to a couple of Iron Maiden shows, like So, because I mean, I will go see those guys play anytime, all the time, because their stage show is amazing. But like, I've been to a couple shows when they release new albums, they're like, oh, they didn't play any of these songs. We're like, what do you want them to do, man? They just put out a new album. Like, they want to promote it and they want to play the songs off this new album that they spent a year or 2 years writing and making. It's like,
and not for nothing, when a big band does that, like a big national act or international act, like Iron Maiden, like,
yeah,
kudos to them. They could just collect the check and fucking play the same shit over and over for you, or they could make something new for you, because that's the purest form of creating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, so don't ever change. You guys are great. I think your album syncs up perfect. So
thank you.
And to their credit, like, people will joke and hate on them all the time, but if AC/DC is able to do the same song every record and still make the ridiculous amount of money they do, it's just kind of like, clearly we must be doing something wrong then, because they do the same thing all the time and it works.
No doubt. All right, guys, listen. Thank you for being on today's show. Where can people find Kids on Fire? Where can they buy your album? All that stuff.
They can find us on all the socials, Facebook, Seattle Kids on Fire Seattle on Instagram, Facebook. I think it's Kids on Fire Seattle at Bandcamp too.
I believe so. Yeah.
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 And Spotify and all that shit. Although Bandcamp's always the better way to go.
Did we already say YouTube? I can't remember.
We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're discoed into everything: Google, Apple Play. Pretty much anywhere that you can find digital media, we're on there.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we see you guys on this coast in closer to the new year.
Yeah, no, in October. That's the
plan.
plan. That's the
plan.
First part of October.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, that's the show. I want to thank Kids on Fire again for being today's guests on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to their Bandcamp, their YouTube, their social media. Give them a follow, give them a listen. Go buy that record. Thank you to Chris Chavez for being producer of this podcast. Thank you to State Line Records for still sponsoring us. Head to statelinerecords.com and pick up a couple records from Mark. Also, I want to thank Loser's Circle for allowing us to use The Great Illusion of Time off of their album, Took Long Enough. I am forever grateful to that band for allowing us to use that tune. Everyone over at Patreon supporting us, thank you so much. We got a lot of stuff going on over there. We've had a few new patrons show up. I guess it would be patrons. Shout out to our new patron Mark. Shout out to our new patron Molly. And there was someone else too. They joined the free tier. I apologize for not shouting you out. I will next time, because I just don't have it in front of me at the moment, and I don't want to hang it up on that. But you do, regardless if you're supporting us through one of the paywalls or just supporting us in general. I appreciate that. And all right, we're gonna, you know what? We're finding it. We're finding it right now. Audience, here we go. This is in the reel. Jen, thank you for supporting us over there as well under that tier. Yeah, it helps. All of this helps. It really does. And I do, and I appreciate it. Chris appreciates it. And in whether you're not behind the paid wall, you still joined it, and that's what matters, right? Because there's still stuff that we put out there for everybody as well. Thank you so much for being part of this community. It means a lot. If you want to join the Patreon, head to patreon.com/podcasttsa. The tiers are inexpensive or free if you want to join the free one. And let us know what you think of what we got going on over there. We've got a bunch of new shows. We have Struggling Artist Radio over there now. We have the Struggling Artist Companion episode where Chris Chavez interviews me about a deeper dive into the episode we play. It's usually the week before. Sometimes we'll dig into legacy episodes, we like to call it. Pretty soon here, we're going to have a website too, the strugglingartistpodcast.com. I think I also bought podcasttsa.com. I'm overstepping by telling you about this, because as of right now, we're not launched yet, but we're going to be soon. We're going to be this year. It's a big deal. We're doing a big project trying to get that thing going because we're going to start hosting the podcast from over there, and it's going to take a little bit of work, right? So what's going to happen eventually is I'm hoping that if you are a subscriber on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast, nothing will change. However, there is a slight chance that it might have to change, and I hope everyone comes with us if we have to do it that way. I'm learning, man. Hey, any web designers out there that understand how to change RSS feeds, hit me up. I could use some help. Thank you everyone who listens, who we haven't had a text in a while, but who texts us, leaves a voicemail or, email. Thank you. It's much appreciated. And it lets me know that people are out there listening, and that's what matters the most. I appreciate every single one of you for listening. We came back in January of 2020, and I would never guess where we were today. This is absolutely incredible, and it's because of you all, and I thank you for that. All right, we're gonna get out of here with a song. This is off of Kids on Fire's newest album. It came out in late 2023. The album is called The Best of the Worst of Times. And the track we're playing tonight is going to be, I'm better at this when I'm doing the radio show. We're going to play the song This Is Family off of The Best of Worst of Times, Kids on Fire. We'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.
Get 'em out of here, you stupid racist punks. We don't want to hear everything you gotta say because it's junk. When the hell was that? Everything go right?